They have their storybook ending.
You can walk through the fire. You can walk through the fire. When it's down to the wire. You can walk through the fire.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Wrexham Texan. My name is Jake Green. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. Got a little bit of a cold, so if I sound a little off, that's why. Just getting over it. It's been a very long week. As you can see, I'm not in my normal spot. I am up in Montana at the moment, building our house up here. So got the floor joists in, got the subfloor in. Today, I'm going to put in the massive deck we're putting on it, and yeah, then the walls start going up. So pretty stoked to finally see some major progress on our house up here, and we're doing it all ourselves. So it's a long and exhausting process, but it's very worth it. So yeah, I missed last week. I was at a convention in Washington, DC. Took all my time. Like, we were at this convention. It was for the Libertarian Party of, it was Libertarian National Party here in the United States, trying to pick our presidential candidate, vice presidential candidate, and some members of the LNC. So yeah, last weekend was chaotic, up till way late at night doing business and all sorts of stuff. So it was not a good weekend for me to do the Wrexham Texan. This episode will be all about season 3, episode 2 of Welcome to Wrexham, entitled Goals. It really starts out with Elliot Lee losing his mind going into halftime of the Swindon game from last year. Yeah, you know, being a fan and being abroad especially, and not being able to interact or see the players around town, or, you know, what have you, you don't really know their full personalities. You don't really hear them speak very often. So it was very interesting to see Elliot Lee coming in hot and scolding himself and everybody on the team for playing so poorly in the first half of that Swindon game. I'm sure everybody remembers it. It was a brutal first half. We were down 4-1, but we'll get to that. He also used the term "weak as piss." It's not a term we use here in the United States, so I understand the meaning of it now, but it was just funny to me that that's what was said. So then we jump back. So it kind of starts out with a flash forward, I guess, is what you'd call it. A little flash forward instead of a flashback. And then it goes back to where the episode actually starts, which is the transfer window, signing. Who all did we sign during this moment? Boyle, Evans, and McLean. They were looking for a player to challenge Mendy, specifically, and possibly Barnett, but mainly Mendy, to give him some competition. And McLean fit that bill clearly. I mean, after this past season, McLean fit the bill. Dude is amazing, and super entertaining. Got to be one of the most entertaining players on our squad, for a lot of reasons, not just his football play. So yeah, brought in a bunch of transfers, which was super helpful. We absolutely needed them. I can almost guarantee you we don't get promoted without signing at least McLean, if not Evans as well. And then we signed Fletcher a little later, but yeah, Fletcher as well. So I think our moves during the transfer window are fantastic this past season. I think they are the primary reason we got promoted. Obviously, Paul Mullen, Elliot Lee, Phil Parkey, all of our guys on our squad to begin with are fantastic. But it was a struggle to get that top 3 spot secured. and McLean just added so much depth. And so, I mean, he could play multiple positions, and he plays them all well. And then Evans holding down that defense, and holding down he's just a rock in the middle of the field. And so those signings, I think, are what kind of pushed us over the edge and made sure that we got our promotion. And yeah, one of McLean, they interview him, and he's got that thick Irish accent. He said that people want to be remembered as a part of history, and so if he can join this squad and be a part of that history, that's what he wanted to do. Which I totally get. That makes total sense. He's, I think, 34 when he signed, I believe, 34. So, you know, he's past his prime, but he's still crushing it. And yeah, if you can come in at the end of your career and make a massive difference in a club that will last for a very long time, why wouldn't you want to do that? You know, I think that's a great outlook to have. Leave your mark. He's already left his mark on Irish football, so why not come into another squad and yeah, lead them up through the leagues. So very happy, very, very happy with the McLean signing. Turns out during this time we were 21st in the league. We have no Mullen. It's not going to be easy. It's the beginning of the first 5 games were a little iffy. According to Humphrey Carr, however you say it, goodness gracious, they pissed on our chips, referring to MK Dons. I have no idea what that means. I mean, I get the basic gist of it, but I don't know where that comes from. I probably should have looked that up. If someone in the comments wants to tell me, please do, because that saying is hilarious to me. Then we're introduced to what is my favorite part of this entire episode, Mr. Oliver Stephen. This guy's amazing. Okay, he's a photographer around the city of Wrexham. He's not an official photographer for the club or anything like that. He likes street photography. He takes very unique shots and doesn't focus so much on the pitch or the games or the players. He focuses on all the little cultural rituals, and he's fascinated by the details. He makes a point of focusing on all the stickers and signs and stuff that are posted around town, and takes beautiful, beautiful shots of so many things that are happening around the town of Wrexham. Shots that very few people would see the beauty in some of the things that he sees until they're in that photograph. There's something about getting a still frame, just one image, that makes it more beautiful than if you're just looking at an object. Your field of vision is extremely wide. Okay, there's no real border. It's kind of fades off to the sides, so there's no real border. I think one of the things that makes things beautiful with photography and cinematography, videography, all these kinds of things, are the fact that it's in a frame. Okay, once you frame it, let's try to get that. Gosh, that's terrible. Once you frame it, you'd think that framing it would detract from its beauty because it takes away everything else around it. Say, for instance, a sunset. Like a sunset is, especially up here in the mountains, sunset is beautiful. It is absolutely stunning to look out over the mountains, have no boundaries, no framing, no nothing. It's absolutely beautiful. But when you take a perfect shot of a sunset with a camera that is solid, that works, that you know how to use, and it's limited, it's one little frame, and you have that sunset, it adds to the beauty because I think it limits it. Because I think it makes you focus on this exact area, and and depending on how it's composed, with photography, depending on how it's composed, it can make it more or less beautiful. And Oliver's photos are fantastic. I would buy many of them that they showed in this episode. So yeah, there's something about for me, I shoot real estate photography on the side, and what I tell the people who work for me is I always want a frame within a frame. Okay, so with a house, if you're shooting a house, you want, obviously there's going to be the frame of the photo, but then inside the frame would be something like, okay, if you see this line, if we just scooted this over and had basically this line right here, the door frame, and then this line right here, the corner of the room, that is a very well positioned frame within a frame. The only downside with this particular shot is that when I tilted the camera when I panned the camera a little bit, it made all these hardwood lines go a little off kilter. And so for me, for real estate photography, especially, you want symmetry a lot of times. And so you want all those lines to be exactly horizontal, going directly across the frame. And you want these vertical lines on the edges. So that creates a nice frame within a frame. And yeah, Oliver Stevens' photography is killer with his compositions. He understands to a high degree how to compose a photograph with leading lines and heavy on one side, light on the other, brightness, darkness. Like he knows exactly how to do it, and I find his photography very compelling. I also find him very compelling. He says he's an outsider and he sees things that people don't really focus on. I totally get that. I tend to watch from the outside a lot of the times. I know that doesn't less so in the last 5 years or so. So ever since I started being on camera, I am on camera way more than I am taking pictures off camera, which is good and bad for me. It's fine at the moment. But I spent 2 decades of my life watching from the outside and observing and being very quiet and not participating in everything, but just watching. And so I really connected with him on that level. I don't connect with him where he says he's never been to a match and he's never set foot in the stadium. That's crazy to me. I am far too much of a sports fan. I guess I don't have the same fears or phobias as he does. So it's not quite the same thing, but I could not stop myself from going inside the stadium to watch the games. That is inconceivable to me. So hopefully at some point he'll get that. He'll get to go inside and watch a game in person. He mentions that during the celebratory parade, they were playing "I Can't Help Falling in Love with You," and he says that's exactly how he feels with the town of Wrexham. He kind of uses photography as his love language for the town and for the people in it and for the club. And he mentions how, the club brings the whole town together and is the major unifying force within the town. And he just can't help falling in love with it. And I completely understand. I've never even been there, and I already love so much of what I've seen and observed from thousands and thousands of miles away. So I get that sentiment too. Yeah, I just connected with Oliver on so many levels. Went to Fine Art University, been there since 2008. He was suicidal, depressed, had anxiety, was an alcoholic. Man, did he turn his life around. And a lot of that had to do with art. Art's a pretty powerful thing. I went to art school. I had no direction in life before I went to art school. I was not doing much of anything. I was a valet down in down in Dallas, Texas, making decent money as a valet, but I don't want to do that forever. So it was only happenstance that I discovered that I could, in fact, go to art school. It had never been something that I had thought of. Um, so yeah, I think art can be a pretty powerful thing for people who are lost, maybe, or wandering, or don't know exactly what they're supposed to be doing in life. That was me. So yeah, I think it turns out that some of my favorite people are broken or damaged, but resilient. Um, and Oliver fits that bill. It is clear, he mentions it repeatedly in this episode, that he had gone through a lot of struggles. He's been broken, but he was able to find a way to push through it. He says, you can push through your fears, but they're still there. You just know how to cope. So true. That is so true. And for me, videography helps with that. Making documentaries helps with that. Observing helps with that while making art. That's a big, yeah. He's some of the things he says in this episode are very profound if you think about them for more than 5 seconds. And I think it's absolutely beautiful, and man, maybe that's why I connected with it so heavily. Yeah, he says his fine art degree was dealing with uncertainty as he progressed as a photographer, which he related to life. So I do the exact same thing. This is so crazy. As I'm talking about this, I'm having new revelations. So he, as you as he shot photography, he was bad at first, like almost everybody is when they pick up a camera. And then he could see himself getting incrementally better. And then he applied that exact scenario to life. So he could just get a little incrementally better every day, and eventually he'd be in the spot where he wanted to be. That's the exact same thing with me. When I shoot a movie or a documentary or what have you, when I started, I thought it was decent, and then I'd go back and watch it, and it was terrible. Hated it. I hate most of the things that I do, um, because I know that I can do them better if I just try a little harder or practice a little more or learn a little something extra. And so I'm never fully satisfied with my work. I'm happy with a lot of it. I'm happy with my last two documentaries. I thought they were fantastic. I love doing this show. I think I do a decent job. I could do better, which is why sometimes there are times when I miss episodes because I don't think that I'm doing a good job, and I get a little self-conscious, and I don't want to be on camera, and I don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to feel like a failure. So I just don't just don't start the podcast. That is not what happened last week, but it is what happened like 3 weeks ago. I don't always have the confidence to be on camera talking about things uh, that I feel like I could embarrass myself on, which is just a part of life. My wife's very good at not caring about being embarrassed, and she's just the happiest, sweetest, most fun-loving, persevering person that I've ever met. And so, uh, learning from her has been very helpful over the years. And yeah, I mean, the to see the progression of my video skills, my photography skills, my skills in the whole filmmaking arena. Um, I have definitely applied a lot of that incremental change to real life, especially more recently. Um, it's a very recent thing that I really started focusing on small incremental change, because I think when you focus on a massive change and you don't get there quick enough, you fail because you're focused on a goal that might be unattainable at that time. And so then you regress, and then you go back to where you were before. You mess up, you're back in the squalor, you have anxiety again, you're depressed again, you fall all the way back. So pushing pushing forward one little step at a time, I think, is a fantastic way to live life, and it allows you to grow at a sustainable pace, which is definitely something I've not done in the past. I have 3 podcasts that I'm shooting right now. 3 podcasts. I'm shooting a movie. I'm building a house out here. I'm renovating my basement. I don't do I have not done incremental things well in the past. But over the past 6 months or so, I started to try to downscale my life so that I can focus on a few things at a time rather than multitudes of things at a time, and just get that incremental change. So these are all reasons that I connected with Oliver. Like, this is all about Oliver. But these are like, this is why this show can be so powerful, is because out of nowhere, you can connect with somebody who you didn't know existed 5 minutes before the episode started. And that's exactly what happened to me with this episode. And this is another place where I connected with him on. He loves his niece and nephew and has a picture of himself with his nephew in his wallet at all times. He wants them to know that they can do what they want to do and push through any pain and discomfort. He has to push through his own things, his own pain, to make sure that they have a good example. Yeah, 100%. My brother has a kid, and he's about to have a second kid. My sister-in-law has a kid. My wife and I don't have kids. We might not ever have kids. So there is a big part of me that thinks about my nieces quite a bit, and what they would think of their uncle once they're old enough to understand, what I'm doing, and understand what life is like and what life is about, and kind of give them a good example. So I connected with him. It's crazy how many times I connected with Oliver during this episode. He's scared of crowds. I'm not scared of crowds. I prefer not to be in crowds. That's why there's not a single other human within a mile of me right now. That's my favorite place to be. Yeah. So this whole episode for me centered around Oliver. And I know that was only like a third of the episode, maybe a quarter of the episode, but it was the most impactful. And honestly, it's so funny. It made the rest of the episode feel like it took forever, because I thought the Oliver section went on for so long, in a good way, that I thought the episode was just way too long. Turns out it wasn't. It was only 42 minutes. It was just a double length of an episode from the first season. So it's not a crazy amount of time. And it seems like that's what they're doing this season. So I thought introducing us to him was great. I thought it added. I like when they introduce new characters. I wish they would introduce new podcasts. I want to see some Me, the Wife, and Wrexham on this season. I like Fearless in Devotion. I like Rob Ryan Red. I want some Me, the Wife, and Wrexham. I want some Two Beards. Come on, give me some new commentary on Welcome to Wrexham and the Wrexham season. That's what I want. All right, after Oliver exits, he does come back later on, but not for very long. We're not going to talk about that. We transition to, we are 1-1-1 after 3 games, 11th place with 4 points going into Swindon. This was one of the most painful halves, painful halves of the season. Okay. We played so horribly. Mindy got destroyed. Lee got destroyed. Our entire defense and midfield got murdered. Palmer was terrible. The only player, and Parkey says this at halftime, the only player that was any good was Bickerstaff. I liked Bickerstaff before this game, but this really solidified my love for Bickers. I really hope that we keep him around. I think he could be good. I don't know that for sure, and obviously other people who are around the squad more, and the coaches and managers and all that can decide that for themselves. But I love Bickerstaff. Plus, his name's Jake, so you can't go wrong with that. We go down, what was it? 2-0 in the 27th minute, which just after losing to MK Dons at home to start the season, losing to them horribly, was not the most reassuring way to start the fourth game of the season. And it was at that point that Bickerstaff got his one goal of that game. And I don't even know how he scored that. That angle was unbelievable. He rocketed that thing just right in between the goalie and the post. Fantastic goal. When I saw it live, I thought it hit the side of the net. I didn't even celebrate it first because I was just like, oh, there's no way that went in. There's no possible way he snuck that in. But he did. It was a fantastic shot. I loved it. Overjoyed for Bickerstaff. Then they proceed to score 2 more freaking goals because we can't keep the ball. And we sloppily kick it away, lose possession multiple times. It was terrible. So we go in at halftime down 4-1. Parky's letting them have it. You can see everybody's dejected. You can tell I found it funny because I don't think there are certain players who will respond to the type of abuse that Parky gives them at half times when they're doing poorly. And I think for me, that would be a test. If I were Parky, if somebody couldn't handle the type of motivational abuse that I was giving them at halftime when they're playing poorly, then they don't belong on the squad. There's that. There are generally 2 reactions to getting screamed at and told that you're playing piss poor. One is to have it infuriate you in your gut, and you go out there and you want to prove that person wrong. You want to dominate. You can be as aggressive as possible, and you're going to go for it, and you're going to turn it around. The other one is to get really sad, really down, really dejected, play extremely poorly, and just kind of be depressed about the whole thing. And I think Parky does a great job of recruiting the players that don't do that second thing, because that's a huge. It all depends on the coach, like the manager. That relationship between the manager and his players, and any sport, like there are phenomenal players who were terrible playing for a specific coach, and it's because that chemistry was not there. And so Parky, knowing how he coaches and recruiting players that can play well and play well under those conditions is a very important thing. And he does a freaking fantastic job at that. You can tell when he lays into them. You can tell most of the time. It's not every time because no one's perfect. Most of the time, they bounce back. They get angry. They find that extra oomph within themselves, and they go for it. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as second half begins, Elliot Lee got a penalty kick, got it in 4-2, and then a phenomenal, textbook football play, short little passes, threading the needle, we threaded a few needles, and then put it in the back of the net to get down 4-3. We had a slight bout of poor play to make it 5-3. But then Jones got a header goal, and then towards the end, Elliot Lee kind of stumbled or got tackled while he was kicking the ball and put it in the back of the net. And man, 5-5. I've not ever been more overjoyed to tie a game, to draw a game than that game, because down 4-1 at half, you just don't think there's any way you're coming back from that. And I know that Wrexham has done it in the past, and other teams have done that in the past, but the odds of that happening are so slim that it's just hard to fully believe that we could make that happen. And if we hadn't done that one moment of poor play in the second half, we had one moment and they took advantage of it, we could have won that thing. And Parky he thought we were going to win that game. So, yeah, it's wild. All right. It was after this game that I don't know about y'all, but I follow Ben Foster on Instagram and Twitter. Woke up to a notification saying, Ben Foster put out a video and it's him retiring again. And it makes sense. They do a whole montage right here of everybody saying, it's difficult to know as an athlete when it's your time to go. There are plenty of athletes who stay far too long. And too long might be harsh, because if they're still able to play, I guess it depends on if it's hurting the squad. And in this case, Foster, yeah, he probably was hurting the squad because he just doesn't have that extra extra gear. Goodness gracious, the extra gear anymore, because he is 40. And Mark Howard's still that old too, so I don't know how he did it, but he came in and did a solid job for us before he got a Conquo. Yeah, I guess Foster could have just been a sub, but there's no way Foster was ever going to do that. Premier League goalkeeper, legend in English football. He's not going to do that. So yeah, it was time for him to retire. He knew it. I think a lot of the fans knew it. It was still hard to grapple with, considering he was a part of a massive moment that got us into the EFL. So that was a tough morning, but it made sense. It was just a pill everybody had to swallow and move on. Yeah, then Ryan and Rob talk about walking off with dignity. Rob still making the, Always Sunny in Philadelphia in the 28th season or whatever they're in now. Has no idea how to walk off with dignity. Hilarious. It's then we learn that Mullen is back. He's not fit. He's not ready to be running, but he's back in the stadium, starting to train, starting to go through more physical therapy on the grounds. And at this point, I don't know why we didn't mention this at the beginning. Maybe we didn't sign him at the beginning with Boyle and Evans and all them, but we hire Fletcher to supplement Mullen and his injury. Dude is straight out of Braveheart. They mentioned that in the episode. Scottish Viking Jesus. He is unbelievable. So much fun. Love this signing. Yeah, we talk about him. Oh, somebody uses the phrase, he's 37, but he looks fit as a butcher's dog. That might be the best phrase I've ever heard from Wales. I love that. I think I got to use that from now on. Fit as a butcher's dog. It's amazing. Then they interview Fletcher for a while. It was good. It was good to see an Irishman and a Scotsman on the screen for a while, giving interviews, talking about their football careers. Fletcher's been so many places. It's crazy. He's had such a fantastic career. I love that dude. And so he said that he thought he might retire, but he just needed something to give him that spark, give him that fire, give him that excitement. And just like McLean, Wrexham was the place to give him that excitement. So he signed with us, and immediately we play a rival, Grimsby. Howard is back in goal. Mullen is back. Mullen's having a fantastic game. Got so many good looks. Just wasn't quite there yet. Just wasn't quite there. Probably came back a game or two too early, but nearly scored many times. And it was really fun to watch. And then later in the game, we go on a roll. Palmer with a header, Boyle with a header, and Elliot Lee punches one in the back of the net to win 3-0. Oh, and Fletcher in his debut, did a bicycle kick that almost went in as a 37-year-old. What a beast. I mean, not much more to say about him. Yeah, that dude is unbelievable. That's all you got to know. So, yeah, we ended up beating Grimsby 3-0, and that's, y'all, I think it was game number 6 or 7 that was our last lowest point of the season. After that, we were in playoffs or automatic promotion area for the rest of the season. So yeah, last season went phenomenally well. And I thought this episode covered this stretch fantastically. Loved every minute of this episode. Uh, I give it an A. I give it an A. I thought it had a lot of drama. I thought it had a lot of heart. Um, I give it an A. So there you go. I forgot I have to rate these things. I need to I need to come up with a chart and put it on the website so that y'all can see what I rate these things and why. So that might be a project for me to start. So y'all, I don't have time right now to follow all the news coming out of Wrexham. I would love to. As soon as I get this house built in my basement in Atlanta finished remodeling, I will have far more time on my hands to devote to researching and paying attention to Wrexham and, for me, politics over here in the US, for my other podcasts. So just bear with me. These are going to be primarily episode reviews of Welcome to Wrexham during the off season this year. So if there's ever big news, I will absolutely talk about it on here and give y'all my opinion. But for now, it's just going to be episode reviews with a little extra, maybe some personal stuff in there, like I did today. A lot of personal stuff. So yeah, I really appreciate y'all watching. I'm not that active on Twitter and Instagram right now. I'm far more active during the season, but you can go follow me over there, WXM Texan, in both of those places. Also, the belt buckle that I ordered for Texan of the Year, which is the prize, the top level prize. Like, it's way higher than like Player of the Year that the EFL gives out. It's way higher than really any award that there is. Texan of the Year, that's the one. That's the most coveted prize. Gave it to Elliot Lee, and it will be here within. I had to get it custom ordered, so it'll be here within a month and a half. At which point I will do an episode with it, show it to y'all, and I'm going to send it off to Elliot Lee, send it off to the club, and just pray that it gets in Elliot Lee's hands. So that's the goal. Can't wait to show that to y'all. That'll be it for today, y'all. I really appreciate y'all watching. Click that subscribe button, click the like button, all that good stuff. Share it around. Love doing this show. Can't wait for the next episode. So I'll see y'all next week. Y'all have a good one. Up the town.
Search my soul, although your heart, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. And if you knock my soul, oh, with all your strength, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it.